Hello and welcome back to the channel, and today we're looking at the new archetype just released in Crossover Breakers, Maliss. So the first thing I wanted to show you is a bit of an example combo for what does Maliss want to do. You run 3 of each of the Dormouse and the Rabbit in your deck, and they both lead to the same end board. They get there in a different way, but it is in effect the same combo. So we're going to start by showing what can you do with 1 card in Maliss if that effect resolves. So we'll start by normal summoning the Dormouse, and if you don't know, all Maliss monsters have got a gimmick. Basically, when the monster is banished, you can pay life points to bring it back. They have additional effects as well, but that's the basic gist of the deck. So we start by normal summoning the Dormouse, and we use its effect to banish a copy of the Rabbit from deck. Rabbit's been banished, we pay life points, we bring it back. We're going to use the effect of the Rabbit to set directly from our deck a copy of TB11. Now the traps all have a gimmick as well. They can be activated the turn they are set by banishing a face-up Maliss monster. But we're not going to use this just yet. So we'll set a copy of TB11. We're going to link both monsters away into what may as well be a Maliss card. It's certainly an honorary Maliss card, Haggard Lizardose. We'll activate the effect of Lizardose, which banishes for cost, so it can't be impermed. Can be Ghost Ogre though, something to think about because Ghost Ogre's gaining in popularity at the minute because of Rizio. But we'll banish the Dormouse, because the Dormouse hasn't been banished yet. So we banish it, it comes back. And then we're going to link away, link 3 for Maliss Red Ransom. On summon effect for Red Ransom is to search a copy of the field spell, but we're not going to use this now. We're going to hold on to it as an extender. Maliss TB11 will summon a Maliss monster from our deck. Its effects will be negated though until the end of the turn. We're going to activate it the turn it was set by banishing a face-up Maliss monster. So we banish the Red Ransom, which special summons the cat from the effect of TB11, and now the Red Ransom from its own effect is going to bring itself back by paying life points. Secondary effect of Red Ransom, after it's been banished and brought back to the field, you can banish a Cyberse monster from your deck, which will be the Dotscaper. So we banish the Dotscaper, comes back to the field from its own effect. The cat plus Dotscaper. We'll link away into a copy of Splash Mage. And now Mage plus Cat, because we'll revive the cat with the effect of Splash Mage, which does now lock us into Cyberse, which is fine, to be honest, because this is basically a Cyberse link climbing deck. So we link those away for the White Binder. Now the White Binder, we're going to activate its effect to banish on summon, and we'll banish the cat, and we'll banish the TB11. The cat will of course come back. Now all 3 Maliss main deck monsters have used their banish effect, so we can't use any more this turn. The cat comes back. Maliss White Binder's other effect we'll use to set the GWC06 directly from deck. This is basically a monster reborn for the deck, but we're going to use this next turn. You'll see why. So we set this using the effect of the White Binder. Now the next thing we're going to do is link away the cat for Link Decoder. And then here's where we start doing some shenanigans, basically, because we're going to use Link Decoder plus White Binder to get us a Fireball Dragon. And then we've been saving this, so we'll activate it now. You can banish a Maliss monster from your hand, deck, field, graveyard. We're going to use it for the graveyard right at this moment. I'm just going to double check actually, because yeah, so hand, deck or graveyard, not field. Don't want to be reported for misinformation. So we're going to banish the white binder from our graveyard, which will special summon itself back to the field using its own effect. When that happens, we get a draw. Fireball Dragon is co-linked to 2 monsters. So we're going to activate the effect of the Fireball Dragon. Don't forget, Link Decoder comes back to the field as well, using its own effect. And we're going to bounce 2 cards from the graveyard back to hand. So that's going to be Chessy Cat and the Dormouse. Could be Chessy Cat and the Rabbit. Doesn't really matter, to be honest. So we'll bounce those back to hand using the effect of Fireball Dragon. And now we're going to go link 1, 2, 3. Link Decoder and banished, using its own effect, of course, after leaving the field. And we're going to go into the Hearts of Crypto. Fireball Dragon's effect will now kick in because our monster it was pointing to has left the field. So we'll special summon from hand using the effect of Fireball Dragon, Chessy Cat. We haven't used the effect of Chessy Cat yet, so we're going to banish the Dormouse to draw another 2 cards. And you can start to build up a bit of a picture here of what's going on. We're still not finished comboing, by the way. We've got all these cards in hand, and we've done all this from one single starter. Now, the next thing that we need to do is, and this is going to look a bit weird, but bear with me, we're going to 3 + 1 + 1. And that's going to get us a copy of Neo Tempest Terahertz. It will activate its effect, send into the graveyard Cyber's Disabler. Now, this is basically a spell or trap negate. Negates the activation, more specifically. It can come up, the difference between those two, I mean, as long as we've got a link 4 or higher on the field. So our board, as we end, you're probably thinking, well, you've just done all of that. There's only 1 monster on the field. You got a trap set. So what exactly does this mean? So we pass turn, and then this is where it starts to get interesting, basically, because we're going to activate GW06, which will special summon from the graveyard White Binder. White Binder will use its own effect to banish from graveyard the Crypto, the Red Ransom, and the Rabbit, all 3 of which will come back to the field, of course. Now, Crypto needs to go under the Fireball Dragon because Crypto's got an effect, non-targeting banish, by shuffling a Maliss card back into your deck from the banish pile. It can't be negated, and the effect can't be negated, the activation can't be negated, as long as it points to another monster. So you want to have this underneath the Tempest specifically. The Ransom comes back, the White Rabbit comes back. So that now that the Ransom has come back, you can get yourself another copy of the field spell. You can banish another Cyber's monster from your deck. The White Rabbit is going to set the last remaining trap from your deck, another non-targeting banish. And then you can start to see now, from 1 card, this is actually a lot of interactions, because the Red Ransom, we'll just pretend we banished this Dormouse from the deck, so it came back. These can no longer be destroyed by card effects, because they're pointing to the Dormouse. We've got a spell or trap negate in the graveyard from the Disabler. Terahertz can use its effect this turn to send Mirror Logic Aggregator, or instead, maybe it sends a Code of Soul, which you can banish from your graveyard during your opponent's turn to link summon. Non-targeting banish, that can't be negated. It's also got 5,000 attack now. Sorry, non-targeted banish, that can't be negated. We've got the Rabbit, which is set another non-targeting banish, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards in our hand. If we use the non-targeting banish on the White Binder, White Binder hasn't been banished yet. This turn gets banished, goes away, comes back. We get another draw. And so the advantage you can generate if this combo goes ahead from one single card is honestly nuts. What we're going to look at now is an example of what this deck can do under Dimension Shifter. So again, the mouse, the rabbit, it's the same thing in essence. Slightly different routes, but you get to the same kind of place, basically. So what I would mention with Dimension Shifter is, Dimension Shifter does actually hurt this deck. If you know your lines, there are still things you can do under Dimension Shifter, but the thing to weigh up is, does Dimension Shifter hurt them more than it hurts me? And the answer in 99% of decks is yes, absolutely. Ryziel isn't particularly affected by Dimension Shifter, but the Fiendsmith Ryziel variant that seems to be very popular at the minute absolutely is. So we start by activating Dimension Shifter, everyone's favourite card, and we normal summon the mouse. The mouse banishes the rabbit from the deck, which is special summoned to the field, and we set from deck a copy of TB11. Now, what we do a bit differently this time is we're going to link away the Dormouse for a Lingeribo, and the Dormouse will of course come back to the field. We link all three away for a copy of Red Ransom. Red Ransom will fetch the field spell, and then we activate TB11, banishing Red Ransom, and that will special summon from the deck a copy of the cat. The Red Ransom comes back, banishing from deck a copy of the Dotscaper, which of course comes back. We link all three away for the boss monster, Heart Crypta, and because the cat hasn't yet been special summoned using its own effect, that also comes back. Chessie Cat plus Crypta is level 4, and so we use that to special summon Firewall Dragon. And then Crypta comes back, using its own effect, special summons itself underneath the Firewall Dragon. And the important thing to note here is now Firewall Dragon's effect lets us get one card from the graveyard back to hand. There's only one card in the graveyard, Dimension Shifter, and this is how you can loop Dimension Shifter. If your opponent's deck is weak to Dimension Shifter and you're going first, if this resolves, then yeah, this is 4 turns of Dimension Shifter, and they're just going to scoop at that, basically. Now, in a vacuum, if you think about what I've just showed you, it'd be very easy to say this deck is absolutely busted, insane, completely broken deck, tier 1, tier 0, do all the typical kind of, clickbaity type stuff. Insane one card combo, and it is. It's absolutely nuts that one card can do all of that. But I play tested this deck over the weekend. I only actually lost once, in fairness, at locals, but it did highlight, should I say, a very important weakness of the deck, and it's something to consider, A, if you're playing against this deck, or B, if you want to play this deck yourself, because it's not uncommon to have a hand that looks a bit like this: a mouse, a rabbit, 3 non-engine, and if you're going first already, you're thinking, right, so the Fuwalos, yeah, not great, drew it when I was going first, which happened a lot, by the way. I went first in one of the games and drew all 3 copies of Fuwalos in my opening hand. Yeah, let's just say I didn't win. So, looking at this hand, here's what happens quite a lot. And we have to bear in mind, there's a lot of non-engine in people's decks at the minute. So, you watch the YouTube video, and you think, wow, what an amazing busted combo, I'm going to play Maliss. You normal summon the Dormouse in perm. And then what you do, you just lose. You just absolutely lose the game on the spot. Maybe you go... Something else in here is, I don't know, a terraforming to try and grab the field spell. Normal summon Dormouse in perm. Terraforming, hoping you can grab the field spell. Ash. And then Now let's just imagine that this was a Ghost Ogre rather than a Fuwalos. You've got Dormouse on field, 3 non-engine in your hand, and you are just hoping to God that their deck can't play around hand traps. Basically, you're hoping that 2 hand traps is enough to force that deck to scoop. Let's compare this experience with something like Ryziel, because this should hopefully highlight why Ryziel is in fact so strong at the minute. So if we compare this to something like Ryziel, 3 non-engine in hand, the same. Let's pretend one of these is a Fuwalos, some kind of useless card to draw in your first hand. And then, just like with Maliss, it's directly comparable. They've got 2 in archetype monsters in their opening hand. Normal summonize Ryziel, and they go Ash. No thank you. Oh, fair enough. Special summon EXT Ryziel. In perm. Oh, fair enough. So 2 hand traps, they're just eaten. And then it's overlay into duo drive, detach, send to the graveyard. And then even though they've been hit with 2 hand traps, they're now in a position to just play on like nothing has happened. Because they're still going to get to the field spell, they're still going to get to the detonator, and this is why Ryziel as a deck, all things considered, is positioned higher than Maliss in the current meta. Because if you hand trap this deck, it's so difficult for it to stop them from playing. You could throw 2 hand traps at the deck, like you just saw, and they just play on like nothing happened. And this is assuming they don't open any of the Fiendsmith engine in their opening hand. If it's Ryziel Fiendsmith, and they open Ryziel plus Fiendsmith in their opening hand, there's almost literally nothing you can do to stop them from playing. So how does this link back then into Maliss? So there's 3 main ways I've seen people try and overcome the issue Maliss has got at the minute as an archetype, which is, while the engine can absolutely combo to the moon if the card resolves, the Maliss engine itself is actually quite fragile, so supplementary engines are needed to try and bolster it, basically. And I've seen it where it's still pure Maliss, but with 3 Allure of Darkness, 3 of the Cat, and I'm not necessarily against it, but you're quite reliant on RNG to a certain extent, as you always are in a card game, let's face it. But if you draw the wrong hands, you draw 2 Allure with no targets, it can be quite prone to bricking. The other engine, which I'm actually quite interested in, I want to explore it more before I do a video specifically about it, but I will mention it while we're here, is the Skyscraper engine. So you have 3 engage, a Widow Anchor, a Hornet Drones, and Kagari in the side. If you go in first, it's 3 bodies. If you go in second, you can use it to start trying to pick apart your opponent's board without committing to a normal summon. And yeah, I need to do more with this, I think, more experimenting basically before I talk too much about it. But it is interesting because Sky Striker's always been a really good option for going second, trying to pick apart boards, and Maliss, it struggles a lot going second. But the engine I wanted to talk more about, and I think probably my preferred option at the minute, and this will be no surprise to anybody who's been keeping up to date with the current metagame, it is actually Kash. Now, the ratios of the deck when I first started playing, I thought about maybe 20-20, 20 engine, 20 hand traps. Hey, the more hand traps, the better. And then I looked at maybe 22 to 18. And the ratio I'm settling on at the minute, and this might change, is 24 engine, 16 non-engine. Because 16 non-engine is still, it's still a lot, it's still a decent amount. But what you want your ideal ratio to look like in terms of a starting hand is 3 different types of engine and 2 non-engine. Because, as we've seen, the deck can absolutely fold to 1 hand trap, 2 hand traps, 3, and a lot of decks fold to 3 hand traps in fairness. But there are decks out there like Rifti running an absolute ton of hand traps. So if we're going to play Maliss, we need to give ourselves the best possible chance of being able to play through interruptions. And as we saw earlier, the deck can fold to a single imperm. But with a hand like this, and I've not intentionally tried to give myself the absolute god hand or anything like that. You know, this is a hand that is, I mean, these are all 3-offs. This is a hand you will absolutely draw at some point, plus 2 other cards that'll do nothing for you going first. But you special summon the unicorn in perm. All right, fair enough. Activate Maliss in Underground, banishing a rabbit. Rabbit comes back, set the trap, Veiler. Oh, fair enough. Normal summon the Dormouse, activate Dormouse effect, Veiler, imperm, whatever else it is. So you've been hand trapped 3 times, but the difference is you've got plays now. You could even hold back the normal summon of the Dormouse, and we go 1, 2, into the Splash Mage, Splash Mage, bringing back the rabbit, Splash Mage plus the rabbit, into the White Binder. Don't activate the White Binder's effect just yet. Set directly from deck, and now if that maybe this is where the 3rd hand trap hits you. Not a problem. We're normal summoning the Dormouse, and we're playing the game. And I do think this kind of Kash Tira, Maliss Kash Tira, still working on the exact ratios, but I think Maliss as an archetype for now can't really compete if it's pure Maliss. I do think it needs that supplementary engine. So what I'd be interested in, if you got to the end of this video, which supplementary engines have you been testing in Maliss? How have you been trying to make the deck work? Because this is by far and away my favourite deck of the minute. I haven't given up on White Forest, don't worry. I'm looking at a White Forest list for the current format. I'll be honest, I don't think White Forest is well positioned for this particular format, but Supreme Darkness changes everything, in my opinion, for White Forest. We have not seen the end of the archetype. I'm pretty sure of that. Anyway, if you've made it this far, consider subscribing if you haven't already. Drop a like, drop a comment, let me know what you think.